Welcome. Oh my. Oh, I don't know. Wow. Welcome. I'm doing something. We're having a snafu here tonight. But you're in the right place, on the right show. This is Mysterious Forces Live. It is Friday, August 2nd, 2019. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I'm sorry for the odd beginning. I'll explain. Wow. I didn't even do the professional fade out on the music. I'm a little frustrated. I'll tell you why. Because I was supposed to have 2 guests on tonight. And because in August, Google and YouTube did away with Google Hangouts. And now there's just a way to go on YouTube and go live. But I see no way to invite someone to the show to have a guest. So I have William Pullen standing by, and I had Jiggy from Paranormal Hood standing by, and no laser. Yeah, I see more. I have no way to invite my guests onto the show. And I just saw something that it's a little button at the bottom of my screen that says share, but I don't know if that's for the show, because I see Facebook, Twitter, all these icons for these social media platforms. And it's not telling me how I can invite someone onto the show. This is frustrating. This is extremely frustrating. There's a different view. I can see the chat room. I see Bug, Mark, Ray. Thank you all for being here. I'm just going to try to pick up the torch here and go with it. I'm hoping to see William and Jiggy in the chat room. And I see the professor just popped in. So, wow, this is not cool. We've heard a lot of criticism lately of, people being deplatformed, or I watch a lot of political channels on YouTube, and the David Pakman show, other shows, Kyle Kulinski, Secular Talk. These independent shows are having problems because they're demonetizing their channels and or their individual episodes. And sometimes, as soon as they post an episode, it's getting demonetized before it ever hits the public, before the algorithms could even analyze. And there's no cussing or anything controversial in a lot of these independent channels. And I think that everyone is starting to see more commercialized content on YouTube, which is you get a lot of Jimmy Kimmel clips, still Joe Rogan because he's so successful. You're seeing clips of news, and it's all mainstream media, big corporate stuff. And I really do believe that Google and YouTube are trying to edge out these smaller independent channels. They're demonetizing. They're not putting it in the recommendations like they did. Even Secure Team 10, that has more than 2 million subscribers, they've had trouble with having episodes demonetized. And I just think that this is some crooked shit going on here with YouTube. And I did everything right. And here I can invite my guests on, and Google Hangouts no longer exist. The features are gone. YouTube said, hey, you'll just be able to come and click on our app and be able to go. And I figured out how to do that, but no indication whatsoever of how to invite a guest. Yeah, Jiggy saying we use Skype. I see Jiggy in the chat room. So I don't know. I don't want to I can't have a whole episode of just bitching about YouTube, but I'm pretty pissed off right now, right in this moment. So this is me mad. This is me mad in front of a camera. I would be cussing. You know, I do like the Fred Flintstone cussing under my breath. That I'll just take a deep breath. Yeah, exactly. Breathe. I'm just mad because these corporations, they want to go right back to bitching, right? They want to fix something that's not broken. There was nothing wrong with Google Hangouts that I knew of. But their money has to be behind this decision somehow. Somewhere along the line, this meant more money for them and more hassle for the independent channels, the independent content creators. And I don't know. I'm just frustrated. But welcome. Thank you. It's been a long week. I've had a lot going on. We've been house hunting. We're getting ready to move. We found a house. And so I know where we're going to be going, and I'm going to be kind of leapfrogging the studio. I'll set up the new studio and probably do the last this weekend and next weekend out of this studio, and then move to the other one, and hopefully get it set up in the interim. So look for production value changes in the show very soon. And I'm working on figuring out how I can take phone calls. And I think once I can take phone calls, I think it'll get kind of interesting. We're going to open things up a little bit. Let's see. Tonight's topic really was going to be very heavily dependent on my guest because William Pullen is an independent ufologist. He was associated with MUFON, but they had a falling out and they parted ways down in Texas. And Jiggy from Paranormal Hood, he tried to join MUFON as a field investigator in the Boston area. And they just kind of gave him the runaround and never answered a straight question, or never gave a straight answer, rather. And they just kind of jerked him around. And so he never ended up becoming an investigator with MUFON. And Jiggy is someone that has time, resources, equipment, and he could have brought a lot to the table to MUFON, as William Pullen did. William Pullen has a great direct knowledge, you know, of research and UFO cases. And this is an organization, I guess this is kind of a counterbalance to the show I had last week. And by doing this, I mean no disrespect to Tom Whitmore, who's a board member of MUFON. I had Rich Hoffman on as well. And I appreciate both those guys a lot. And Tom Whitmore is a really nice guy. And I think he's well-intentioned, as MUFON is probably, I would think, at its ideal core, well-intentioned. But I think that there have been several missteps over the last few years. And just to be clear, and I've let a few people know this, and I kind of said it in passing on the show, but one of the agreements that I had to accept with Tom Whitmore was that he will not answer any controversial questions about MUFON on the show. So I have a choice when I have Tom on. I either have Tom on and have him give his point of view and his opinion and relate facts as he knows them about whatever we're talking about, or I don't have him on at all if I want to ask those kinds of pointed questions. And I don't do ambush journalism. I'm not going to play nice with someone. I've said this before. I'm not going to play nice with someone, invite them on, ease them into a conversation, and then, you know, a la old Mike Wallace, 60 Minutes, then hammer them with some kind of sharp, pointed question that they're not prepared for, and then put them on the spot and on the camera. That can be very entertaining sometimes. And I think when we see those kinds of things on news shows, especially like some guy or or gal that owns a business and they're ripping people off, or they've done something crooked or some kind of fraud is going on. Sure, it's kind of a treat to see them cornered next to their car in a parking lot, or you go into the lobby of their office and start asking these questions and they, freak out. That we've all seen that. That's entertaining, but that's not the kind of journalism I want to do here on this show. Number one, I think you would find that people would not come onto your show after a while if you had a reputation for doing that. And I think that within the format of this kind of a show, which is an interview show, it'd be just kind of inherently dishonest. So I just don't want to. I don't want to be that girl. I don't want this to be that kind of a show. So I just wanted to counterbalance, having those guys on. And of course, Rich Hoffman is not with MUFON. He had been a member of MUFON in the past, but he's with this Scientific Coalition for Ufology, the SCU, based down in Alabama. And so the premise of the question that I wanted to pose to my friends based on these negative experiences is MUFON even relevant? Is MUFON obsolete? And maybe in the same regard, even though people might question why I would ask this, is TTSA obsolete? In that, yeah, they're acting as a conduit for new information. But I think the jury is out as to whether TTSA is somehow a public front for some limited level of official disclosure, and they're using TTSA as an outlet in that regard. Or are they, just what they appear to be, and they're getting a hold of information. For instance, the 7 samples they have and the sample from Linda Moulton Howe, this stuff is known, okay? It's been out there. And this isn't a surprise. This is nothing new. And so they're rehashing old evidence to a certain degree. Now, I'm always down for new analysis if they have a way to run new tests or use a new lab or approach the analysis in a different way, then yeah, there's something to have. But TTSA is a money-making enterprise, and we'll have to go back to that premise, right? They're creating entertainment content. Tom DeLonge's writing books. They have a television show, obviously, unidentified on the History Channel. So they are a for-profit enterprise, and I do believe that they're passionate about disclosure, and I don't want to pretend that they're not. I think that would be disingenuous. But, they're also looking to make money, and they're looking to create entertainment content. And I can't blame them. Here I am trying to create entertainment content. If only they would let me send a link to my guests. And I just wonder if in the age of the internet, and what I want to do is try to pull everyone in through the chat room. And what's different about this setup now is that I can see the chat room on my computer, where before I had to look at my phone. So please participate in the chat room, and I'll take your questions and we'll discuss here, and I'll just kind of moderate from here. But in the age of the internet, is MUFON really necessary? When John Greenwald of the Black Vault has millions of documents online readily available for you to look at, do you really need an intermediary? Do you need a MUFON? Do you need a TTSA? I'm going to set the Scientific Coalition for Ufology aside a little bit, because they're working with a team of physicists and other scientists, and they're analyzing cases to the nth degree. Okay, whatever evidence they gather, whatever eyewitness accounts, they're breaking these cases down, and they're doing hardcore scientific analysis of the reported events. And they don't seem the Scientific Coalition for Ufology they're not selling anything, you know what I mean? Like they have an annual convention to talk about what they've discovered, so on and so forth, but they don't have a real outreach program. They're not looking to get new paying members in. And as far as I know, someone correct me if I'm wrong, they're not selling t-shirts or anything else. But, TTSA, MUFON, they are. And of course, there's also the National UFO Reporting Center. And his name escapes me for a second, but I know that he's on Coast to Coast every Friday night. I forget his name. I don't know why that his name escapes me, but it is the UFO National Reporting Center. With Cheryl Costa's book, the catalog, the encyclopedic catalog that she has collected of UFO sightings and cataloged them, do we really need MUFON? If you order Cheryl Costa's book, do you need MUFON for anything? Do you need a MUFON newsletter? Do you need MUFON to tell you, hey, we investigated 4 cases nationwide last month? It's like a monthly newsletter. And so if they're going to, say, hey, last month we looked at 5 cases and here they are. This is what the witnesses said. But then there's nothing else forthcoming. I mean, what real useful purpose is that serving? And this is an honest question. Is this just to perpetuate the idea of MUFON? I guess what I'm asking is, where is the proof in the pudding? Where is the end product that's usable for the UFO community from an organization like MUFON? And hold on just a second. This was buried on my shelf. I'll show it to you. UFO sightings desk reference, United States of America, 2001 to 2015. Unidentified flying objects, frequency, distribution, and shapes. Cheryl and Linda Miller Costa, right there. I gave this book out as a gift for Christmas last year. And so with this, who needs MUFON? Do you really need a MUFON website if you've got this in your library? Except for events that happened after 2015. But as Cheryl continues to move along and update information, it's available online. And she makes frequent post updated information and statistics on UFO sightings, their locations, all of this kind of data. Cheryl keeps it updated. Where is MUFON's catalog? Where is MUFON's cache of data that's available for free, much like the Black Vault? I keep playing footsie with John Greenwald. I want to get John Greenwald on the program, but he's a super busy guy. And we keep talking back and forth, but we don't ever seem to be able to sync up, but we will. But if you can go to the National UFO Reporting Center and look up sightings for the week, for the day, for the month, for the year, and go back, which is part of what Cheryl Costa tapped into. If you can get Cheryl's book, if you can go to the UFO National Reporting Center, if you can look for your scientific analysis by PhD scientists and engineers at the Scientific Coalition for Ufology, then what do we need MUFON for? What do we need TTSA for? One might argue that we need TTSA because they do have that government connection. And for whatever reason, whether it's by design or by chance, they have access to new data, to new materials. And I'm talking primarily the video material. If they're going to analyze a sample that Art Bell handed off to Linda Moulton Howe in the 80s, then we're just taking a fresh look at old evidence, or maybe something that, Linda sat on for a long time. I'm not quite sure how much analysis Linda got into in that sample. And so I would be stepping way out of my lane if I said that I knew anything about what Linda had done with the sample or what kind of analysis she had. So I would have to look into that. So the onus of tonight's topic, do we need MUFON? Do we need TTSA? It's entertaining. I'm entertained by unidentified, but I'm entertained by movies and a lot of other things. I don't know what use they are serving a useful purpose. People are talking about UFOs. People are showing the Tic Tac video. I think that the publicity is good. Okay, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think the impact of the TTSA evidence, it has a major impact on the UFO community. For the people who care about UFOs and ufology, alternative research topics, it's huge. Everyone talks about it. Within our community, there's a lot of chatter. But outside of that, yeah, it gets a little bit of play on some Fox News, a little bit on CNN, a little bit here and there sprinkled in, right, into your regular news content. But what is the real impact? It seems to be not really that great. You know, we're looking at Tic Tac videos, not Tic Tac videos, but videos with the Tic Tac UFO rather. And we're all talking about it, but then the news media and the mainstream media, they're talking about which politician tweeted this or said that or did this or whatever it is that the news is fucking you around with on any given day, right? You know, who's the new shooter this week? There's always a new one. So, what good is this doing us? And I guess I'm speaking a little bit out of experience. When I first started to get into all this, before I even started the show, I went to my first International UFO Congress 2 years ago. And I just jumped right in. I bought the MUFON Field Investigators Manual. I got the VIP annual membership. So I had access to all the website stuff. And they sent me the coffee mug and all that stuff. But I'm not going to say where or when, but I was kind of given the cold shoulder by the people who in the area that I was at the time. I wanted to join the field investigators team, and I went to the team leader and I spoke to him, and they were just very tepid about talking to me. And I think I've mentioned this once before on the show, and I don't play the trans card very often or at all, really. But I was left with the feeling that this particular field investigators team wasn't really interested in having a transgender woman on their UFO investigators team. And, you know, it's not that anyone said anything specific. It's not that anything was done to me. No one tried to intimidate me. But, you know, if you went and you spoke to a group of people and they really didn't want you around, and like they give you very short answers, very short one-word answers, very vague answers to specific questions, and just kind of generally talk amongst themselves, but kind of keep you edged out. That was what happened to me. So at the same time, in some previous months, I was Facebook friends with a guy, I'm not going to name him, and he was a state. He was involved with MUFON on the state level in Texas, or maybe on the national level. And this guy had put a bunch of right-wing political stuff up on Facebook. He had made some transphobic statements and posts and some kind of pseudo-racist stuff. And I was Facebook friends with him, and I was writing him behind the scenes. I'm like, so you're saying that, you know, I'm not a person, I don't have a right to exist? And he was trying to kind of split hairs with his political opinion and then talking to me directly as a human being. And I was trying to point out to him that him and I had a dialogue with each other that was not about politics. It was about UFOs. And so far we had managed to kind of work around those issues. But at a certain point, when you see people posting something on their social media and you vehemently disagree with it, you've got to part ways at some point because you just don't want to see that in your daily feed. And there was a media story about this guy eventually, and then there was some racism allegedly that happened in Pennsylvania with a state director. And MUFON didn't get rid of this person right away, and then they pretended to get rid of them and then brought them back in another position, but they were still kind of doing what they'd done before, but without the title. And so this is when I started to get disheartened about MUFON. Was I got the cold shoulder when I was trying to volunteer my time, and also at this local meeting that I went to, there were some political people on the field investigators team were wearing political T-shirts, very strongly messaged political T-shirts. And I disagreed with the idea that they would allow politics to get intertwined with the MUFON meeting. If it had been my group, I would not allow political T-shirts or any political material in a meeting like that or in a group like that, because I don't think it's the time or the place. But between the cold shoulder and the political messaging, and then these guys on the national level where there was some racism and bigotry being presented and outed, and then what really disappointed me was MUFON, Jan, did nothing. They didn't really do anything. They were kind of unresponsive. They were like this behemoth that was slow to respond. And so I didn't renew my membership to MUFON after that. It was 1 year. And, if I had been MUFON, if I would have been paying attention to the statistics in MUFON, and I had someone join at the VIP level and pay all the extra money for all that, and then they didn't renew their membership, I would ask them why. Hey, what happened? Why did you not rejoin? Why did you not renew your membership this year? I would want to talk to that person and find out why. Nothing, not a peep. Not a peep. Now I'm going to look in the chat room. I see Bug. Paranormal Hood sounds like a good percentage of the file when I talk to them. Yeah. Actually, that's hard for me to read. I'm going to jump on my phone. I can read that a lot better. And I'm waiting for it to load. I'm sorry for the clunkiness of this show. I generally like to run a really smooth show, but I got thrown off by this technical crap tonight. Let's see. Yes, Jiggy from Paranormal Hood is going to be here for the International UFO Congress. He's going to be hanging out with me and doing his own thing as well. And so if there's anyone around here, I see UFO Gandalf, Dexter, Dave, Bug, MUFON never answered emails. I'm just going back. I'm looking. William Poland says the internet can be a great source of information, although the information has, for the most part, not been vetted. And I would take William Poland's point very succinctly there. When you just look it up for yourself on the internet, it's not been vetted. However, that's when I would refer you to Cheryl Costa. Bug, I'm blocked by John Greenwald. And I know that there has been this big bunch of shit between TTSA and John Greenwald, and I think it's unfortunate. I like John Greenwald, and I think the Black Vault is a great service, and I hate it. I don't like to see so much infighting. The blue chicken liars, they deserve to be, outcasts. They deserve to be shunned, sent out of the village with a banana and a thin pair of shoes and told to make their own way in the world. But a banana and a thin pair of shoes. TTSA recently used a malachite stock photo. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, they did. And to show the layering of the sample, and then it was deleted. But yeah. That was moronic for them to do that. William Poland, MUFON does a great job of collecting data, but have not acquired any definitive answers to the UFO enigma. And I'd have to agree with that. And also, I almost said, isn't that what TTSA has done? But in some ways, they have given us new data and new information, especially the eyewitness account stuff, which I actually I pay attention to. And if an active duty service member talks about UFOs, or someone who has been a fighter pilot, someone in that kind of role in the military, radar operator, people who deal with sensitive information, I'm going to listen to that eyewitness testimony. And I don't care if it's Tom DeLonge and that gang or not. These people are coming forward, they're giving witness testimony, and in my opinion, professionally, they're sticking their necks out by doing it. So I am going to pay attention to that, because those folks don't really have anything to gain by talking about this subject in public. Let's see. Bug. With what TTSA has done, all people can do is pick at little silly details. I get that. And I'm not trying to do that, Bug. TTSA has done a lot. But they need to. Here's the thing. People do pick things apart. When you put a picture of a Mylar balloon up at a major public announcement, you're going to get hammered. When you put a piece of malachite up as just a stock image for your announcement or your information, but you're misrepresenting. I mean, that's just the power of the internet. That's what people do. People are waiting for a mistake to happen. And those are small mistakes, and overall, they don't really affect the data. But perception is everything now with the internet. And if you are perceived to be so sloppy as to misrepresent what you have through that kind of a public forum, then your credibility, right or wrong, gets dinged, okay? Just like I made a mistake last week. In fact, I got confused on my facts, and I wrote some promos that were factually incorrect. And I was going back, like, I was mortified, and going back and correcting myself later. But, I was just waiting for people to start chewing me apart for making a mistake. That's just the power of the internet. Money rules everything these days, Bug says. William Pullen, the local chapters do all of the boots on the ground work, but they receive no support from the higher organization. That's right. The higher organization's not helping you buy milk and cookies for your monthly meeting. They're not helping you rent a space. They're not paying for gas. They're not paying for equipment. They're not paying for any kind of analysis. They're not paying for anyone's time. They're not paying for anything on the local level. They're just a one-way funnel, accepting the data and collecting it, keeping it in their archives, not making it publicly available, and not financially supporting the local chapters. Does that seem like a crazy setup? Would you, dear viewer, participate in a system like that, where it's just the people above you just take it all and give nothing? Yet they're, collecting money from annual memberships, paying their board of directors, selling T-shirts and mugs, having conventions, symposiums. Let's see. The fact that MUFON is the largest organization and has no real competition is extremely problematic. I'm hoping, actually, that the Scientific Coalition for Ufology will kind of undercut that. I'm hoping that they get a little more power or influence and can kind of make headway on that. But it's like I said to Tom Whitmore last week. We've seen MUFON mentioned and shown in the X-Files many times over. MUFON, the branding of MUFON, has made its way into pop culture, and everyone has heard of it. Even people who don't give a damn about UFOs have heard of MUFON, okay? Or, it's a pop culture reference. It is like Area 51, right? You don't have to be remotely interested in UFOs, but when you hear the term Area 51, then you know what they're talking about. I just got an alert. There was a power outage at John Wayne Airport in Southern California, in Orange County. So we'll have to look at that later. Let's see. Bug, this is the problem. You need them if they functioned properly, Jiggy says about MUFON. William Pullen says, my professional position is that MUFON should be a part of the investigative effort, but they need to address the issues within the organization. Change has to happen. And I would agree. Then you would have someone like me who paid an annual membership, who expected a certain amount of something, might come back if they would do something like that. But, I don't see any reason for me to pay a fee to get access to information that draws no conclusion, a database that really can't be cross-referenced or directly accessed, and then get nothing in return for it. Bug, they need something really to hit the news, a proper video, decent evidence. True. I asked Tom Whitmore if TTSA had put a fire under MUFON, and I think he sort of, felt like maybe they had to a certain extent. He didn't really directly answer the question. William Pullen says, MUFON functioned better when they had NICAP and APRO as investigative competition. I agree. Hopefully the SCU will have some field investigative teams. Maybe I'll talk to Rich Hoffman about that and see if they plan on having something that can be a little more responsive in real time. Bug, I fully support TTSA at the moment. I don't want you to think, Bug, or anyone else, that I'm just totally bashing TTSA or that I don't support them. I do. And I even accept the fact that they want to make money. That part doesn't really bother me. I want to make money. I want to sell t-shirts. So I'm not going to criticize someone else for doing that. My critique at this point of TTSA is that they seem to be sitting on a wealth of data and information, and that they're trickling out a little bit at a time. And that kind of annoys me. I think if they have, if you can imagine a box, a cache of whatever it is they have, scientific analysis, data, more videos, more eyewitness testimony, they should just, maybe if not one big, data dump of information, do it across a month, so much in a week, and do it over the span of a month and break it down into chunks and present it that way. I just resent the idea that they're sitting on information that could change the field of ufology, and for either commercial reasons or whatever, business reasons, that they're withholding. That's my bitch about TTSA. I don't have a personal beef with Tom DeLonge, any of those people I'll put off. I'm not out to get them. Okay. I just don't want them withholding what they have as a means of creating mystery and however it benefits them financially. That's what I'm against. But I don't have it out for them. I don't. Bug says the trouble with a lot of this kind of community is they swing right and have narrow-minded opinions. William Pullen, it's ridiculous that MUFON knows the issues that it has and does not address them. And I think so. I would love to invite Jan Harzan on here and ask him the tough questions. Do you think he would ever come on here? I mean, I'm way, way, way below his notice, I'm sure. Paranormal Hood, Jiggy says, most people don't mind or ignore the racism, sexism, homophobia, and more. Well, the middle-aged white guys tend to be pretty tolerant of it. Let's see. William Pullen, my professional interactions with Mr. Whitmore were extremely disappointing. I expected a far more professional approach. And I know that there's a story there, and I'm not talking out of school because William just said that. And that's part of what I was hoping to have William talk to. And once I figure out how to invite guests back on my show, I will have William come on and talk about that. I don't want to speak for anyone. Let's see. That bug. That's why I'm blocked by him. William Pullen. Total reorganization of the higher organization is in order. I would agree. TTSAs provide a lot of decent testimonies. I agree. And to me, so far, I mean, the videos are strong. Okay. The videos are strong. But just beyond those two videos, the witness testimony is what excites me. That's I tend to put my eggs in that basket. William Pullen says the local chapters barely survive from month to month. Speaking of MUFON, that should not be happening. MUFON makes only a little money, and they could at least pay for rent or equipment for the local chapters. And then Williams, let me run the organization, and I would clean house of the problems. So there you go, MUFON. Let William Pullen take over. I would be all for that. I would be all for that. So I think for now, I'm just going to leave this right here because I was prepared to interact with my guests, and I have a knack for feeding off of the natural conversation and helping the conversation evolve and then getting to more interesting questions based on what's being said. But I didn't come here to do this to just myself blab my opinion on a TTSA. I want to give some show notes, and that is I have a major guest a week from tonight. And this person is way above my pay grade. And I'll probably say this when he's on the show. This is going to be the equivalent of a broadcasting Jedi coming down from their orbiting space station to chat with one of the locals in a small desert village. I'm not comparing myself to Luke Skywalker. That's not my gig. But this is a major broadcaster at a major radio station in Los Angeles. This guy's name is Mr. Mo Kelly. And I don't know if you know who he is. And if you're watching from the UK or Australia, you're not going to know. But there's a radio station in Los Angeles, and it's KFI 640 AM. And they are part of iHeartMedia, and they are the #1 talk station in Los Angeles. And you may think, well, who listens to talk radio anymore? But a lot of people listen to talk radio, and a lot of people in Los Angeles listen to KFI. KFI 640 AM is a cultural part of living in Southern California. If there's an earthquake or an emergency or something happens, people tune into KFI for information. KFI has award-winning hosts 7 days a week. And in that building at iHeartMedia, Coast to Coast AM in Los Angeles, that's where their main studio is at. When you hear Coast to Coast, when he's not broadcasting from St. Louis, but he is broadcasting from Burbank, that they're in the same building. And Jimmy Church, when he fills in for George Norrie, he's in that building in Burbank, filling in on Coast to Coast. And it's just down the hall or relatively adjacent to KFI 640 AM. So Mo Kelly has a show every Saturday and Sunday night on KFI. And it depends. He has an encyclopedic knowledge of music, movies, geek culture, technology. But then again, he can have a conversation, a whole show about local politics in Los Angeles, national politics. He has a great show. This is a guy, and I'm not going to give you his full bio right here, but I hit him up on Twitter to do the interview, and he accepted, and I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't be more thrilled. So this is a big-time professional broadcaster from Los Angeles who's been involved in the music industry, movies, you name it. He's been involved in it in Los Angeles. And like I said, Mr. Mo Kelly, Saturday and Sunday on KFI FM, but AM, KFI 640 AM. is where you'll find them. So look him up and tune in next Friday because it's going to be an amazing show. And we're going to talk about movies. And I'm going to talk about with him, and specifically, since he's so knowledgeable, I have zeroed in on a topic with him. And we're going to talk about the superhero movies, the fantasy movies, the science fiction movies that are dominating the box office right now. And I'm posing the question, are these types of movies strangling out the more traditional dramas, thrillers, and comedies that we used to see because these are so financially successful? There are other angles to this conversation that I have, but I'm not going to tip my hat. But I'm just letting you know that we're going to be talking about fantasy, sci-fi, superhero movies, their impact on culture, and the cultural implications. There's a deeper story to that. There's more to that. There's more angles, but that's what me and Mo Kelly are going to be talking about. And I just want to preemptively say I am so grateful that he would consider coming on the show. It's just this guy, he's a major broadcaster, and he has no business coming on this show. I'm just going to tell you that right now. This is not going to move the needle for him, his career. He is doing me a favor by coming here. And he's going to be doing you a favor by being on the show, but it's going to be amazing. And this is the #1 talk radio station in Los Angeles, and probably only is rivaled by talk radio in New York City. It's probably New York and LA, and that's it. And so this is a major iHeartRadio broadcast personality, and he has agreed to come on the show, and I'm really honored by that. And tomorrow night I'm supposed to have Dr. Irina Scott, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure out. I'm going to have to work tomorrow on figuring out how to invite guests onto the show. And if anyone knows the answer to this, if you know how the new YouTube setup works and how I can send the link to send an invitation for someone to join the conversation, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on Facebook. And I'll jump into tonight is the night where the music transitions just suck. Speaking of professional broadcasters, where am I going to be? I'm going to be at the International UFO Congress in Phoenix, Arizona at the Sheraton Hotel, September 4th through the 8th. I'm going to be booth number 6. Come and see me. Come and say hello. And I'm going to be at Disclosure Con in Pine Top, Arizona, October 5th and 6th. That's a Saturday and Sunday. And that's at the Honda Casino and Resort in Pine Top, Arizona. That's a 1028 live production. Doc Skinner's behind that one. And we're going to have fun for a second year in a row up there. But catch me at the International UFO Congress, and tune in tomorrow and find out what kind of technical fuckery we're going to get into at that time. Anyway, thanks for being here. I love you all. Thanks for participating in the chat, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for spending this time with me. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do it. I love you. Bye. Are you sure you want to end? This is horrible. Of course I want to end.